how relationship addictions like codependency and love addiction keep you stuck. As a doctor, I've seen countless patients struggle with patterns in their relationships that mirror addiction. One patient I worked with, we'll call her Sarah, was in a relationship where everything seemed picture perfect on the outside. She was always checking in on her partner, constantly managing his emotions, and trying to keep everything under control. But in our sessions, she revealed something deeper. This wasn't a healthy partnership. It was codependency. She felt like she was drowning, yet couldn't stop. Today, we're going to explore how relationships can turn into addictive cycles. Whether it's codependency, love addiction, or even something as intense as traumatic bonding. Together, we'll break down how emotional drivers like control, escape, and numbness fuel these patterns, and more importantly, how to begin breaking free. Understanding codependency through a patient story. Let's start with codependency. Sarah's story is one that's familiar to many, maybe even to you. She constantly felt responsible for her partner's emotions, believing that if she wasn't in control, the relationship would fall. This is how codependency works. It feeds off control and restriction. You feel like you need to manage the relationship, and in doing so, you lose yourself. Do you find yourself walking on eggshells in your relationship, always trying to fix things or constantly worrying about how your partner feels? This isn't love. It's control. And recognizing this is the first step to breaking free. Here's how you can start healing from codependency. Recognize the pattern. Acknowledge that your sense of self-worth is tied to controlling the relationship. Set boundaries. Begin by setting healthy boundaries where your partner's happiness is not your sole responsibility. Focus on yourself. Shift your focus from managing your partner to caring for yourself. What are your needs? What brings you joy outside of the relationship? Think about one area in your relationship where you can set a boundary, even if it feels uncomfortable. This is how you start taking back control, exploring love addiction through a story. Let's move on to love addiction. Another patient I treated, let's call him James, was constantly seeking that next high in his romantic relationships. He thrived on the intensity of new love, the chase, the excitement. But as soon as things settled into a routine, he lost interest and moved on to someone else. This wasn't love. It was an addiction. Love addiction is driven by arousal and fantasy. It's about the thrill, not the person. The cycle of obsession, preoccupation, and ritualization mirrors what we see in substance addiction. How to break codependency. If you've found yourself constantly seeking that next emotional high, here are a few steps to help you break free. Ground yourself in reality. Acknowledge when you're idolizing a person or relationship. What's real and what's fantasy? Find fulfillment outside of relationships. Explore other sources of joy and excitement. What hobbies or passions can you pour your energy into. Seek stability, not thrills. Look for stability in your relationships. Healthy love is calm, steady, and safe. What is one way you can ground yourself in reality right now in your current or past relationships? Traumatic bonding and emotional drivers. Let's talk about one of the most difficult patterns. Traumatic bonding. A patient of mine, we'll call her Maria, was in an abusive relationship for years. Despite the pain and fear, she couldn't leave. The highs and lows of the relationship created an emotional bond that was nearly impossible to break. This is the nature of traumatic bonding. It thrives on control and numbness. The trauma becomes the glue that holds the relationship together. Traumatic bonds are complex and dangerous. The emotional highs and lows, much like with addiction, make it difficult to leave, even when you know it's harmful. How to start breaking traumatic bonds. If you're stuck in a traumatic bond, here are a few critical steps you can take. Recognize the trauma. Acknowledge that the relationship is harmful and that the emotional highs are part of that cycle. Seek professional help. Traumatic bonds are tough to break on your own. Therapy, support groups, and medical professionals can help you work through the deep emotional wounds. Create a safety plan. If you're in a dangerous situation, safety must come first. Reach out to trusted family, friends, or professionals who can help you create a plan to leave. If you or someone you know is in a traumatic bond, take a moment to reach out for help. There's no shame in asking for support. It's the bravest step you can take. Breaking free from relationship-based addictions is a process, and it takes time. In the next video, we'll dive deeper into self-appearance obsession and how our need for validation can create cycles of control and arousal. Together, we'll explore how to regain a healthy relationship with ourselves. If this video resonated with you, subscribe and let me know in the comments what's one step you're taking to break free from an unhealthy relationship pattern. Let's work through this together. Thank you and take care.